Hello, my name is Eliot Yoo. Today I'll be presenting on transforming ideas to software game development from scratch. So previously at last year's IFCON, I presented my first game using Pygame and its methods to create a retro game. This retro game was also the first time I used object-oriented programming, such as using classes and their inheritance while encoding. And for today's IFCON, I'll be presenting a new game I made completely from scratch, which is a parody of Flappy Bird. So to start off, where did this game idea come from? The inspiration for this game came from the arcade. The arcade is a place my sister and I visit a lot when we have lots of free time, and we would have tons of fun playing games and winning prizes, spending hours at a time there. But at this one arcade that we usually go to, there was this one particular game, which was Flappy Bird, or its mimic name, Floppy Tickets. This was an addicting game that seemed easy to play, but hard to get the jackpot for. Not only that, but the jackpots were always high, so it's tempting and worth playing for the jackpot. So to get better at this game, I decided to practice at home, and to do so, make a game replica. So to recreate this game, I was going to have to analyze the game, understand its components, and program these components. So to do this, the first step was to brainstorm. I put everything I knew about the game and dumped it onto a piece of paper and drew a sketch of the game. The three main components of the game to focus on were the bird, the pipes, and the scoring. These three components also had their own features, such as continuous jumping for the bird, collision with the pipes, and the score counter. There were also many minor details that needed to be considered. I had to download and create my own images to be used as sprites and figure out their hitboxes for the collision. And for this project, I just used regular rectangular hitboxes for simplicity's sake. I also had to plan on how the game ending sequence would occur and the frame rate for the overall game. So with all this planning done, the programming stage could finally begin. For all the main components I mentioned earlier, I created a class, or blueprints, to create objects that can display on the screen. To keep track of the score that is displayed at the top of the screen, I made hitboxes that spawn in between the pipes that detect collision with the bird, which would add points to your score. And another addition I made to the original brainstorming was the bonus coin, which gives extra points. And the images on the left are snippets of my code that show the classes I made for the objects. So all these classes that I made were then called from a main file that runs the game and holds the code for displaying and controlling the interactions between the sprites. The image on the right is the displayed screen for when the game is run, and the components I mentioned before are shown on it. Overall, this game was about 2 or more months of work and summed up to 400 lines of code. And here is the finished product. So now with the game being complete, it's time for a reflection on what I made. So throughout the entire project, I came across many difficulties and challenges. The first challenge was that this game was a game I made from scratch. This meant that it was an original idea, and I couldn't look online for help for similar projects that were made before. So during the coding process, I had to come up with my own solutions to solve errors or when developing features for my game. This made the progress of the project very slow, as I came across problems very often. Another challenge I had during this project was taking it step by step and focusing on one thing at a time. During coding, I would have constant sparks of ideas on how I could potentially program a certain feature or how I could solve an error with another feature. This overlaps of ideas would crowd my brain at times and confuse me more than it would help, causing interruptions when coding. Because of this, organizing my ideas by writing an outline helped me a lot through the process, as I could write down these sparks for later and focus on the task in front of me. So what have I learned from this project in creating a game from scratch? Well, one skill I improved in was that I got better at applying previous knowledge. I used what I learned from making my previous game to make the programming step of this project much more efficient and simple. Another thing I learned from this project was learning how to transform ideas into reality and understanding all the steps that it takes to go from start to finish. The steps from going to from just a simple idea to a fully developed product is much more familiar to me now, which can benefit me in future projects. As for the future, the next step I'll take is to add a few more features to my Flappy Bird game. I'd like to increase the game difficulty as time goes on by adding a speed up feature to prevent the game from becoming dull and boring. Another step I plan to take in the future is to upload a tutorial onto YouTube on the game I made from scratch. I want to upload a full tutorial on how to code Flappy Bird to teach others about object-oriented programming in Pygame. And finally, another interest I had recently taken in is machine learning. I already have some experience in this field as I wrote a research paper with a couple others that Willie will later be presenting, but I still want to learn more about the subject and how programming is involved with teaching AIs to complete tasks. And for those who are interested, the source code is at the bottom left of the screen, and that is all for my presentation. Thank you.
I am personally extremely impressed by this. Very, very good job. Yeah,
Thank you.
really cool. So opening it up for questions from the audience right now. Do you have any questions for a prospective game engineer like myself? So, any questions? Games are good for you. It's proven by science. It's proven. It's good for you. All right, if there are no questions, I have tons. So, I guess, so in your next steps, you said you wanted to add some new features. Could you describe what the features you've been thinking about are?
Well, one of them, as I mentioned, is like a speed up feature. So as time goes on, you would gain more points, and when you reach a certain level of points, I want to increase the speed, the pipes go across your screen, to maybe make the game more difficult and challenging. Because if you saw in the video, it was kind of slow paced and kind of casual. So I want to make it more exciting to play, I guess.
Exciting to play.
Yeah.
Another question I have then is, other than just the tutorial and speeding things up, adding features, I think those are excellent ways to learn. Have you thought about things like, databases or persistent data so you can save a person's actual stats into a DB somewhere?
Well, for this game, because I so far only have it in my local device, I have it saved to have the high score saved to a file, so when the game is relaunched, you could still have that same high score. So if I actually wanted to upload on the web, I'd have to figure out new ways to figure that out, I guess.
Yeah,
That's also a step I kind of want to take.
What was the hardest part about building this game in particular, the Flappy Bird?
For me, I guess the hardest part of this game was probably just coming up with ideas for how I would program these features, because the code for these features that I made weren't online, or I couldn't search it up for answers. So I had to think of ways by looking at the Pygame documents to see how I could connect the sprites and make the game function, I guess.
You hear that? Read the documentation. If you're an engineer, read the documentation. It's very important. Do we have any more questions? Oh, there we go.
I was wondering, so for your levels and the background visuals, how many unique sprites are you using, and how do you keep track of the whole level? Is that something you hardcode and decide this is what it's going to look like, or?
So for the number of sprites that I use, the sprites are basically the bird, the pipes, the scoreboard at the top of the screen, and then the coins for when they appear. There's also the hitbox that appears in the middle, in between the pipes, but it's not visible for the game's purpose. And to put these objects on the screen, I just basically had them displayed like one by one. So when the screen like in Pygame, there's a function called screen flip, I think. And whenever that runs, it basically refreshes the screen to display like the moved objects. So I just display them one by one, and then the screen flips, showing like the new scene. So yeah.
Did making the game help you improve your high score on the actual Flappy Bird?
Oh yes, for sure. I gained like the next time I went back, I got like 2 jackpots in a row. So yeah, that was huge for me. I was so happy.
Awesome. I think that's time. Thank you so much, Eliot. Oh, one more.
Or like, do you have like any future ideas, like games that you want to make, like in the future?
So another game, I guess maybe another game that I would like to make is, once again at the arcade, there's another high score game that you could get for jackpots called Pop the Lock. And if you know what it is, you basically just time your button press to when the, I guess, the tick goes onto the dot. And you gotta get like 50 in a row to get the jackpot, so yeah. That's maybe another one I wanna make. I like making arcade games, so yeah.
Arcade games are good. If there are any students in here who are interested in game development, Pygames is a great way to start, but if you want to get a job in the industry, I would say Unreal Engine and Unity have wonderful tutorials online, and they are free to use. So you can download those softwares and use it to build your games. This is awesome. Thanks so much, Eliot.